My media advisor okay with this?
I think so. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Magic carpet.
I just want to say how proud I am of all of us, and how proud I am of this. This represents an enormous amount of effort on the part of people who really believe in a better world, understand that we make the rules, and that it's still democracy, not quite lost to a plutocracy or an oligarchy yet, and that people coming together can actually make a difference and make the world a better place. Remember what Margaret Mead said. The only thing that ever makes the world a better place is when a small group of dedicated people come together to make it so. I just inverted that quote, but you should forgive me for that. This is a campaign that is unique around the country. It is literally the only campaign in the entire country funded primarily by small donors. It's the only campaign where we're making a strenuous effort to actually reach voters and have people like you, basically neighbors, people in the community all over the state, conveying to people what's at stake. What's at stake is very simple. We can have a government and leaders devoted to justice and equality and peace, or we can fall into the corporate multinational abyss and head toward an America that consists of nothing but cheap labor and debt slavery. So what you're doing is extraordinarily important. I like to think that what I'm doing is extraordinarily important. This campaign is unique in so many ways. When I first ran for office 10 years ago, a very successful Florida politician and I met. I won't tell you what it is, it's not really relevant. And I asked him if he would support my campaign. He said no, but he told me he was going to give me advice that was more important than anything he could do personally to support my campaign. And I said, what's that? And he said to me, raise all the money you can and spend it all on 30-second ads. Well, we have violated that advice in every single campaign since then with a fair degree of success. What I want to do more than anything else in a campaign like this is I want people to understand the power that they have in a democracy. Look at what I do. I've passed more amendments than any other member of the House, even though I belong to the minority party. I've written more bills than any other member of the House. 26 Grayson bills are now passed by the House, passed by the Senate, signed into law by the President in the last 3 years alone. And the reason for that is that people like you make it possible for people like me to exist. I couldn't do what I do without the fact that there is an army of volunteers and small donors all around the country, not just in Florida, but all around the country who, this is an overused term, but I'll say it anyway, have my back. They're part of our movement. You could call it a revolution. We've reached a point now where only one presidential campaign on the Democratic side was funded primarily by small donors. The others were not. Only one campaign in the Senate in the entire country, Democratic or Republican, is funded primarily by small donors. That's this one. We've received more than 125,000 individual contributions from people to run this campaign. And we've also had thousands of people doing exactly what you're doing, taking their time to help the campaign in any way that they can. I got a letter not too long ago. Some of you who read our emails know about this letter already because I've written about it. It moved me a great deal. Got a letter not too long ago from someone who wrote to me and said to me, here's a check for $10. I'm unemployed, but I want you to have it because I believe in you. And you know, that's something that we can all believe in. The simple sense that we need to follow our path through life, honoring the greatest good for the greatest number. It is incredibly easy and even, in some sense, forced upon you to sell out. It's incredibly easy and in some sense forced upon you to spend all of your time begging millionaires and billionaires and special interests, lobbyists, PACs, multinational corporations for those $10,000 checks. My opponent is a fanatic when it comes to that. My primary opponent has taken more money from Wall Street than any other Democratic member of the House. And frankly, that's why he's gotten the help that he's gotten from the party. The person who is likely to be elected the Democratic leader in the Senate has taken more money from Wall Street than any other member of the Senate. So what we're seeing is a leadership in both parties that consists primarily these days of bagmen, people who simply hold and deliver the cash. That's a shame. I mean, that's really no different from saying that if we're going to elect the Senate, we might as well put in Caligula's horse. This is the way that the popular will is manifested. And this is the process that gave us Social Security, Medicare, student loans, unemployment insurance. Basically, the breaks that people get, the helping hands that they get when they desperately need some help. And to some degree, the peace of mind that life can offer. Imagine what it would be like to be 70 years old, too frail and too old to work, and not having Social Security. Imagine what it would be like to have a pre-existing condition, not be able to get health coverage, and then know that you're about to die. Spoke to a friend just a couple of hours ago who told me that his wife is now on her third course of chemotherapy. She has ovarian cancer. Her care has already cost $1 million or more. He said more. And he said that if Obamacare had not been passed, she literally would be dead. He wouldn't have the money to be able to pay for her treatments. She wouldn't have the money either. No insurance company in the world would ever take that. Someone like her, who was stricken with ovarian cancer, she would literally be dead. These are the choices that we make collectively as a nation. These are the issues that we wrestle with if we're fortunate enough to be elected to represent the people. Literally issues of life and death. The third vote that I ever took as a member of Congress back in 2009 was a vote to extend health coverage to 4 million children who didn't have it. And that included 10,000 children in my own district, right here in Orlando. 10,000 children in my own district. The rule of thumb is that for every 1,000 people who don't have insurance, one of them dies each year. That's a rule of thumb. So we saved 4,000 lives each year by passing that bill that day. And the funny thing is that I'm not going to be getting any thank you notes for that. First of all, nobody knows they would have died. They're alive. Nobody knows that their congressman voted for or against that bill that gave them the coverage that they got to stay alive. Very few people actually know where their insurance comes from. And in many cases, frankly, they're too young to vote. They were children. They're still children in many cases. And so what can you really expect? The kind of reward that we get for that kind of action comes from personal, internal feeling, the sense that you save lives, you make people's lives better, sometimes just ease their burden a little bit, help them to get through the day, and give them some peace of mind. That's what's actually at stake. Our leaders have forsaken that ideal, both Democratic and Republican. Our leaders have become malevolent bookkeepers who simply collect all the cash that they can collect and then try to foist malevolent propaganda on the public. You can sort of understand why there's a certain friction between me and the Democratic Party at this time, because I'm one of the few people in public life who's actually willing to say that. I found a certain inspiration this year from the fact that the people, ordinary people, understand what's at stake much better than you see in the media, much better than you see among elected officials. When you have a campaign that consists of nothing but mudslinging, the public blinks, frowns its brow, and asks itself, "What about me? What about me?" And I've been very careful all year long not to brag about things that I've done at various parts of my life. It's not about me. I've been very careful during the year to always say that if there's one thing I wanted to do if I were elected, it's to make sure that seniors get a raise. And that's the kind of substance that is so lacking right now in political discourse in America. It's basically issueless, it's mindless, and it's valueless. It just consists of nothing but I'm better than the other guy, or at least not as bad. So what you're doing here by making these calls is you're conveying to the public that there is another way to look at this. That to choose between the lesser of two evils is evil. And there is a better way. It is possible to actually elect leaders who care and can get good things done. So I appreciate your help from my heart. Thank you very much.
And as one of those people who didn't have insurance from the time I was 35 until I got Medicare because of a pre-existing condition, I really appreciate that. I didn't die, but I came damn close to it a couple of times because of asthma.
Yep.
And the whole primary has made me disgusted with the whole party because they pick who we're gonna have, and I'm tired of it. I wanna vote for who I wanna vote for. And I was behind Bernie, and I'm behind you, and I'm really tired of being bought off by millionaires and billionaires.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What about
7
single
years
payer?
old.
All right. Does anybody else want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
What is your position on single payer? I understand Bernie wants to introduce a bill about it.
Well, I believe I'm already part of that relevant bill. I have to look it up to be sure. But I've introduced the Medicare You Can Buy Into Act as a step toward that. The Medicare You Can Buy Into Act takes Medicare and extends it to anybody who will pay for it with the Obamacare subsidies in place. We introduced the bill to accomplish that so that we could dramatically improve the Medicaid system and extend it to a huge number of additional people. My goal is, first of all, to make that public option available to people, and we got almost 100 co-sponsors on the earlier version of that bill. And secondly, over time, to lower the age for qualifying for Medicare, because Medicare is a system that people generally like a lot. I mean, it's not perfect, but people like it, and it extends from Key West all the way to Nome, Alaska, and everywhere in between, except for Canada, I guess. They've got their own system. This is something that is desperately needed in this country. We spend far more than any other country in the world on our health care, 17% of our GNP, as opposed to every other country spending 13% or less. Our life expectancy is 50th in the world. Canada lives 2 years longer on the average. Canadians live 2 years longer, and they have to shovel a lot of snow. The Japanese live 4 years longer, and they eat poison fish, so go figure. And yet we still have 30+ million people in this country who can't see a doctor when they're sick because they have no health coverage. People scratch their heads and say, how could we pay so much and get so little in return? The Germans invented universal health coverage. They did it in the 1800s, believe it or not, 1880s. And here we are, more than a century later, still struggling to reach the same ideal. Healthcare is a human right, and it's frankly the least we can do, just to try to make sure that we each can stay alive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I put this on YouTube?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so actually I'm a pharmacy student, I just had a lecture, and my generation's on pace to die 5 years earlier than
Mhm.
your generation.
That's correct.
So this is, a great concern.
It's particularly white people, interestingly enough.
Yeah, and, but my concern is, I don't know if with the recent news with Aetna dropping their HMO, is that something we need to be concerned about with the other companies? Because I have, the Obamacare, and I just don't want Blue Cross and Blue Shield to say, oh, it's not profitable anymore, so bye-bye.
Well, the answer is yes. You know, the whole purpose of the exchanges was to try to introduce something resembling competition into healthcare in this country.